now Xavier Serra will present the approach from the department. That's, yeah. So do you want to use the...
I can do it. Okay, hello everyone. So I'm Xavier Serra. I'm the scientific director of the Maria de Maeztu strategic program, of the program of the Department of Information Technologies here at the UPF. And basically what I want to talk is a little bit the relation of open science within our strategic program. And first, I have to say that listening to Pilar, I mean, I am amazed, positively amazed of how clear at the ministry level, and also when you go to Europe, these concepts are, and how clear policymakers are really pushing these type of goals. But then when you really go to my level and the level of trying to really work with the actual researchers, there is a completely different story there. I mean, people that do research are basically PhD students and postdocs. They have other set of priorities, and all these very nice ideas have a hard time to impact and emphasize what the actual researchers are doing. So let me just go through some of the issues in our department. Well, first of all, first of all, I am within engineering department, which, looking at these numbers, is very, let's say, diverse in terms of disciplines. So it's not sort of a research center with a top-down research agenda, research perspective, and with the possibility of establishing and defining some very clear research goals. Most research departments are more, let's say, bottom-up. I mean, there are a number of faculty people, there are a number of students that have been incorporated through different selection criteria, and that's what you have. So you have a very heterogeneous set of people that hopefully they are very good in their areas, that they have gone through selection processes that they are good. But you have very little control on what they do or what they should do for some specific strategic plan. So the Maria de Maeztu was an amazing opportunity to be able to work on that situation with the idea that, okay, you get some funding, 2 million euros for 2 years, to basically come up with some strategy at the department level that rarely we have, because you head of the department can rarely impose or force any faculty to do anything specific. But with the Maria de Maeztu, we had that opportunity. It was not a lot of funding compared with the funding that basically, if you sum all the projects or all the cost of the department, but we thought it was sufficient to have some specific impact. And the idea was basically, even from the very beginning, to use open science as the leverage on that sort of impact that we wanted to have into what we're doing. In the sense that we couldn't drive a specific research agenda for what I just mentioned, but we could drive the incentives to complement what they were doing through the ideas of open science, to basically do what the Maria de Maeztu aims to do, which is to increase the impact of our research. So we believed very much that open science could do that, even though, as I just mentioned before, maybe most of the faculty didn't care much about or didn't know much about. but we kind of convinced them that was a worthwhile initiative, at least to try. It was not part of their funding, so it was some funding that we got and that we could leverage from. So, but open science in a sort of a broad way, even broader than what was described. Maybe Pilar mentioned most of them. So the idea, of course, the publishing aspect. We are within information technology, so therefore every publication, or basically practically all publications, include data and software. So the idea of promoting the unit of publication as the combination of the article, the data, and the software, and the issue of reproducibility as a fundamental element in this type of research, but also together with promoting infrastructures to support this open science, training, being, as I mentioned, dealing with PhD students, which is the biggest workforce in our research, in our department, the people that just come out of an undergraduate degree that have never heard any of these terms that we are talking about here. So there is a lot of training needed. There is, of course, the need to develop how we promote incentives to go towards that, and how to define, as it was mentioned, metrics, and also, very important, the public engagement aspect of the open science. So, of course, we are doing many things, and I just want to highlight certain specific things that we are doing. And as I said, a very important, I mean, I am not someone that comes from policy. I didn't know much about this, so it has been a key to have some references that we can use and that we can also use to explain things to the faculty. And there's two references that for me have been quite very useful. Maybe, I'm sure all of you know them, but clearly the faculty didn't know about these references. So the first one is this publication by the European Commission from 2016 of open innovation, open science, and open to the world. And for us, being in engineering, an important element here was not so much the open science, but the link of open science with everything else. I mean, being in engineering, innovation, technology transfer is an important element in what we want to do, and how to combine open innovation with open science and the open to the world collaboration was quite revealing and quite useful for us. I have to say that now I think it's quite, it didn't go far enough, this document, in giving concrete solutions. You read many of these books and they read very nicely. They are very inspiring, but in terms of coming up with specific solutions for your own problem, they don't give that much. And specifically in the open innovation, I don't think it goes far enough. And maybe just, if I have a moment, I just want to mention it clearly from the Horizon 2020 and the EU, there is a clear mandate for open science. And for example, well, I had an advanced grant, an ERC advanced grant, and then I got one of these proof of concepts, which are the idea of extending the ERC with something to promote innovation and technology transfer. So we got assigned from the European Commission someone to help us in this technology transfer initiative. So the first meeting we have, so I present that person what we have done. Of course, everything has been open source, everything has been Creative Commons, everything is publicly. And then the first reaction of her was, well, then how can you do an exploitation? How can you create any business out of that? Okay, so she was the person appointed by the European Commission to help us do technology transfer on a program whose essence is open science, and that business consultant had no idea how to give us some advice on how to take that into exploitation kind of initiative. So in fact, it was me that had to tell her that, no, it's possible. And we have some ideas of how to go about that. So, but anyway, I believe very much in the combination of open innovation and open science and the possibility of doing proper exploitation on top of that. But the reality is that there is a lack of culture all around on concrete solutions of how to go about that. But anyway, but this was a good thing for us to understand many of these things. And the other one, which is more recent, is this, and I'm sure here you all know, but I just, well, Aurelio showed it to me. This is a document done by the League of European Research Universities. And it's very nice. And this has a much more concrete kind of solutions that we could actually implement at the university level. I mean, the previous one is very at the very Europe level, but this one really goes into what a specific university can actually do to promote open science. And clearly from this diagram, you see the core idea in which the cultural change is a fundamental element. Unless there is a cultural change, so unless you promote initiatives to change the culture of the researchers, in this case, or of the university context, there is no way you can do open science. I mean, you can have very nice regulations, very nice ideas, but unless the people change, and therefore, of course, this requires the access, reuse, etc. of open access, but equally more important, unless you have incentives and ways to evaluate the researchers, there is no way that you will be able to promote that. And they actually go to very, for me at least, that I didn't know much about these very interesting things. So anyway, so let's go into what we actually did. So let's go to the detail of what we did. And I just summarize into 4 points. So first, in our department, let's say most faculty are quite successful in getting funding. So it was not a matter of, let's say, start new projects or develop new research lines, but from what we had, help them promote the impact and the open sort of science aspect of their projects. So we basically made a call in which the criteria that we used for the selection was their compromise to promote open science within their existing projects and be able, as we have heard before, open science is not cheap. In fact, it's quite expensive. I mean, there is no way that you can promote a full open access type of idea with the standard funding of a PhD student that you have in for a normal research project. The cost of accompanying this PhD student to complement what it would really need to publish it correctly, reproducible, the data, the documentation, the dissemination, that's really beyond the standard research. So by having some funding for that, allow us to basically cover a big part of the faculty and engage them into promoting open science within their existing research. And that is quite successful and has allowed us to and of course, the whole idea was, okay, promote the publications of data, open access, and reproducibility has been a core aspect for us. No? It's not just a matter of putting the publication online, but it's writing it in a way and accompanying it in a way that someone can actually reproduce fully that publication, and that you promote also the dissemination of that and the reusability of that. The second point was a little more complicated, but that was one of the things that we really, really wanted, but I think this is much harder, and I don't think we have fully succeeded. I will just present an example that I think is quite successful, but that's a very hard. This idea of how we make the research sustainable based on open science. I mean, most of the research is based on EU funding, ministry funding, last 3 years, and that's it. And most of the outputs remain on on your draw, and the publications are not even read by the next PhD student because they are interested in something else. So how do we promote exploitation and sustainability of the research projects that we are funding and that are already being done in the department? So again, we made a call, and 4 projects were funded to help them promote technology transfer, but not in the traditional sense, but sort of in the open science sense, whatever that means, and I will just mention an example about that. The third point was also very important for us. It was all this public engagement. We have been very, very active through this Maria de Maeztu to try to promote initiatives, a lot of gender balance type of initiatives, a lot of engagement of young people. Of course, in our field, there is a lack of interest by young people, so we need to promote involvement of how to involve schools and how to involve young kids into our type of research, and we have done a lot of effort to that, but through the research projects. Again, it's not an initiative that is parallel, but try to get the actual PhD students, postdocs engaged in public engagement. And finally, the last one is the idea that is a little bit related with the exploitation, the idea of trying to engage with existing open initiatives. So try to promote projects that would collaborate with Wikipedia or with Zenodo, or type of initiatives that we are very much using, we are very much involved, so how we make our researchers and our students more linked to this type of thing. Anyway, there is quite a few more things, but these were the major ones. And just I want to make an example of a particular project that basically of these exploitation projects, that is, in fact, is one of mine, so that's, I know a little bit about it, so I want to use it. And I think it's a good use case that covers a number of these ideas that we were talking about. We have had for quite well, close to 12 years, a data set called Free Sound. This is sort of a web platform in which people can upload sounds, and these sounds are uploaded with Creative Commons license, so they can be used for research, for creation, for many things. And this has been a fundamental kind of data set for our research. But it has been a data set that has been very much collaboratively. We started with the difficulty in our field of research, which is sound and music, of all the copyrighted. You basically, all music you can find, all sounds you can find is copyrighted. You cannot do research with that. So we started that with at the beginning of Creative Commons, trying to do this, and it became very successful. So now there are more than 8 million users of this platform. There are close to 500,000 sounds that people have put under Creative Commons license. So that means that these are sounds that can be used in a wide variety of things, research, but not just research. And it has engaged with 8 million people, a large part of the community interested in sound, and not just researchers. So it's a very much sort of citizen science type of idea. But of course, the problem of that is that how do you sustain that? We started this kind of using some projects to support partly of that. If you apply to a new project to fund this, they will say no, because this is not research, this is just an infrastructure, and they would say, no, that's not a research project. So we have been able to support it basically because it has been very cheap, since it's these very collaborative and open things, but this clearly couldn't continue like this, so we had to find an exploitation model of this. So during the Maria de Maeztu, we basically have been thinking and implementing different sustainable initiatives that allow to exploit this. And I'm just going to mention a few, but there is a few more that we won't have time. So the first thing is simply donations. Okay, you think, okay, well, in our country, Spain, the concept of thinking that donations can get you anywhere, it's a little bit foolish because people, at least in my areas, but okay, but we tried it, and amazingly enough, after a few months, with donations that are 3 euros, 5 euros, 1 euro, we are making like more than 50,000 euros a year on donations, which is enough, in fact, to make it sustainable, because this is for the engineer that supports it. Of course, there is research and a lot of accompanying things, but donations done properly, thinking about it, collaborating with also the lawyers. If anyone was here at the Malcolm talk, we have been collaborating with him in order to make it properly done. So we have succeeded in really making kind of sustainable with a strategy that very much is an open science type of concept. And of course, out of that means that we can support it more, we can extend it. And out of that, an important thing is to really make it more useful for research. So in free sound, there's a lot of data, so it's a lot of sounds that people put, but the quality of sounds may not be at the same level. So if you want to do proper research and you want to do data sets that can be used in machine learning and all the new deep learning and AI type of approaches, you need to curate these data sets and you need to do it properly. So we got, so many people are interested in this. So Google gave us already is the 3rd research award. So we have Google Research Awards for some time that has allowed us to collaborate with them to convert the free sound into proper data sets that then can be used for research. And it's this free sound data set, and now if you see the numbers below, so it's basically, it's a taxonomically organized data in which there are 632 categories. There are close to 300,000 samples, and this has been annotated by users. Again, it's a crowdsourced citizen science type of thing in which there has been 300 something votes by people, most of them voluntarily. We're also paying some people in order to validate these labels, these sounds, and make it useful. And out of these, we have been running for 2 years in a row a challenge in, I guess, the most known platform for machine learning initiative, which is Kaggle. Kaggle is a company that is now has been bought by Google, and they run these big challenges of, let's say, of Netflix recommendations or whatever, of Imagenet large classification challenge. So we ran basically the first audio-related challenge because there was no data set at this level available before. So this has been a very important thing for the community to start. And we just started, so the last year we had, I think, close to 700 research teams involved, which in our field is amazing because we are a small field. So, and this year we started last week, I think on Friday, and there are already 84 teams participating. And the challenge baseline, well, it was 0.5, and already some people are succeeding in beating us into so anyway, this has been an important thing, but I just want to mention a bad thing about this. So we, okay, open science, open data, we are so happy, we're making such a good contribution to the world. So yesterday a tweet appears of someone saying that no one should participate to this challenge because Kaggle blocks the access to Cuba, North Korea, Iran, Iraq, and some other countries. So, okay, so we researchers very naively, we believe we're doing such an amazing work, but there is always something that is not what you expect and that you have to rethink. So, okay, we are trying to do good and having everything very open, but the truth is that it's not accessible for everyone. So we have to rethink that. I mean, at the end, we're always collaborating with Google, we are collaborating with the big companies, and that makes it some compromises. And in fact, I don't know exactly what we're supposed to do. So, so it's not as open as I was hoping. Anyway, and that's basically what I wanted to mention. There is a lot of other initiatives around free sound. We're also doing licensing the API. We keep a website with all the articles and things that use this data set. So, and again, the whole goal is that this is very much a long-lasting, open kind of initiative with a lot of ways to make it sustainable, which was one of the goals of the Maria de Maeztu one. So it's a good example for us. But if you want to know more, I mean, in the Maria de Maeztu website of our department, there is a lot of things that you can check, all the data sets that we have published, all the software that is available, and all the initiatives that we have promoted and try to, again, the idea is how we can promote the existing research, how to create incentives to the faculty in order that they increase their impact, but very much following the open science. It's clear that they're still not very much on board. In fact, now I see that I don't think there is a single, there is one faculty of the department. So there is we still have some work to do to try to make everyone engage into this. But I think from the 3 years when we started, we have done quite a lot. And so I am quite grateful of how we succeeded in advancing in this. So, okay, thank you.